The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the bustling city streets. People hurried home after a long day, their faces tired but determined. Among them was a young man in his late 20s, walking with his head down, his shoulders slumped under the weight of the world. Life hadn't been kind to him lately. He had lost his job a few months ago, and since then, it felt like everything was falling apart. Bills were piling up, his savings were nearly gone, and the stress was eating him alive. He felt invisible, like no one cared whether he existed or not. As he walked past a small park, he noticed an elderly man sitting on a bench. The man was dressed simply, his clothes worn but clean. He had a kind face, with wrinkles that seemed to tell stories of a life well lived. What caught the young man's attention, though, was the way the old man was smiling at everyone who passed by. It wasn't a big, showy smile, just a gentle, warm expression that seemed to say, "I see you, and you matter." The young man slowed his steps, curious. He watched as the old man nodded at a woman walking her dog, then waved at a child riding a bicycle. Each person who passed by seemed to light up a little, as if the old man's simple gestures had lifted something heavy off their shoulders. The young man couldn't help but feel a strange pull toward this stranger. Something about him felt different. Without thinking, he walked over and sat down on the bench a few feet away from the old man. He didn't say anything at first, just stared at the ground, unsure of what to do or say. The old man didn't seem to mind. He simply turned to the young man and gave him the same warm smile he had given everyone else. "Rough day?" the old man asked, his voice soft but steady. The young man hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. Rough year, actually." The old man didn't press for details. Instead, he reached into a small bag beside him and pulled out an apple. He held it out to the young man. "Here. You look like you could use this." The young man stared at the apple, surprised. He hadn't eaten much that day, and the simple offering felt like a lifeline. He took the apple and mumbled a quiet, "Thank you." As he bit into the fruit, the old man began to talk. He spoke about the park, how he came here every evening to watch the world go by. He talked about the people he saw, the regulars who walked their dogs, the kids who played soccer, the couples who strolled hand in hand. He spoke with such warmth and kindness that the young man found himself listening intently, his own troubles momentarily forgotten. "You know," the old man said after a while, "life can be hard. Sometimes it feels like the world is against you. But it's in those moments that we need to remember the small things. A smile, a kind word, a helping hand, they can make all the difference." The young man didn't know what to say. He had never thought about it that way. He had been so focused on his own problems that he hadn't noticed the people around him, let alone thought about how he could help them. The old man stood up, brushing off his pants. "Well, I should be getting home. But remember, son, kindness is like a spark. It doesn't take much to light it, but once it's lit, it can start a fire that changes everything." With that, the old man walked away, leaving the young man sitting on the bench, staring after him. He felt something shift inside him, like a tiny flame had been lit in the darkness. For the first time in months, he felt a glimmer of hope. As he got up to leave, he noticed a woman struggling to carry a heavy grocery bag. Without thinking, he walked over and offered to help. She looked surprised but grateful, and as they walked together, she told him about her day. It was a small thing, but it felt good. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he mattered. That night, as he lay in bed, he thought about the old man and his words. He didn't know why, but he felt like he had been given a second chance. He didn't have much, but he had enough to make a difference, even if it was just in small ways. He fell asleep with a smile on his face, feeling lighter than he had in months. Little did he know, this was just the beginning. That small spark of kindness was about to grow into something much bigger, touching lives in ways he could never have imagined. And it all started with a stranger on a park bench, who saw a young man in need and offered him an apple, and a little bit of hope. The next morning, the young man woke up feeling different. It wasn't that his problems had magically disappeared, he still didn't have a job, and his bills were still piling up, but something inside him had shifted. The old man's words echoed in his mind: kindness is like a spark. It doesn't take much to light it, but once it's lit, it can start a fire that changes everything. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he had a purpose, even if it was just to be kind to others. As he walked to the local coffee shop, he noticed things he hadn't before. A man struggling to carry a stack of boxes, a woman trying to push a stroller up a steep curb, a homeless person sitting quietly on the sidewalk with a sign that read, "Anything helps." Before, he might have walked past without a second thought, too wrapped up in his own worries. But today, he stopped. He helped the man with the boxes, held the door open for the woman with the stroller, and bought a sandwich for the homeless person. Each act was small, but each one made him feel a little more alive. At the coffee shop, he ordered his usual black coffee and sat by the window, watching the world go by. As he sipped his drink, he noticed a young woman sitting at the next table. She looked stressed, her fingers tapping nervously on her laptop keyboard. Papers were scattered around her, and she kept sighing deeply. He couldn't help but overhear her muttering to herself, "I'll never get this done in time." Without thinking, he leaned over and said, "Hey, do you need some help?" She looked up, surprised. "Oh, no, I'm fine. Just overwhelmed." He nodded. "I get it. Sometimes it helps to have someone to talk to. Even if it's just a stranger." She hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Thanks. That's kind of you." They started talking, and he learned that she was a student working on a big project that was due the next day. She was exhausted and didn't know how she was going to finish. He offered to help her organize her notes, and together, they worked for hours. By the time they were done, she looked relieved and grateful. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You didn't have to do this." He shrugged. "Someone once helped me when I needed it. I guess I'm just passing it on." As he left the coffee shop, he felt a sense of satisfaction he hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't about fixing his own problems, it was about making someone else's day a little better. And that felt good. Later that evening, he decided to visit the park again. He wasn't sure if the old man would be there, but he wanted to thank him for the advice that had already started to change his life. When he arrived, the bench was empty. He sat down anyway, watching the sun set and thinking about the day's events. After a while, a young boy approached him. He looked to be about 10 years old, with scuffed shoes and a backpack that seemed too big for him. The boy hesitated, then asked, "Excuse me, do you know what time it is?" The young man checked his phone and told him. The boy nodded but didn't leave. He shifted from foot to foot, looking nervous. "Everything okay?" the young man asked. The boy bit his lip. "I'm supposed to meet my mom here, but she's not here yet. I don't know what to do." The young man gestured to the bench. "You can sit here if you want. I'll wait with you." The boy sat down, clutching his backpack tightly. They talked for a while, and the young man learned that the boy's name was Alex. He was waiting for his mom, who was running late from work. Alex was worried because it was getting dark, and he didn't like being alone. "Don't worry," the young man said. "I'll stay with you until she gets here." About 20 minutes later, a woman hurried into the park, looking frantic. When she saw Alex, she ran over and hugged him tightly. "I'm so sorry I'm late, sweetheart. Work was crazy today." Alex introduced the young man, explaining how he had stayed with him until she arrived. The woman looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done if something had happened to him." The young man smiled. "It was no trouble. I'm just glad he's safe. As he walked home that night, he thought about how one small act of kindness had led to another. Helping Alex had made a difference not just to the boy, but to his mother as well. It was like the old man had said, kindness was a spark, and it was starting to spread. The next day, he decided to take things a step further. He went to a local community center and asked if they needed any volunteers. They were thrilled to have him. He spent the afternoon helping serve meals to people in need, listening to their stories, and offering a friendly smile. It was hard work, but it felt meaningful. As he was leaving, one of the staff members stopped him. "You've got a good heart," she said. "The world needs more people like you." He smiled, thinking about the old man in the park. "I'm just passing it on," he said. That night, as he lay in bed, he realized something important. His life hadn't magically fixed itself, he still didn't have a job, and his problems were still there, but he felt different. He felt like he was part of something bigger, like he was making a difference, even in small ways. And that gave him hope. Little did he know, his actions were already starting to create a ripple effect. The woman from the coffee shop had told her friends about the kind stranger who had helped her. Alex's mother had shared the story with her co-workers. And the people at the community center had been inspired by his willingness to help. The spark of kindness was growing, and it was about to touch even more lives. The young man's days began to take on a new rhythm. Instead of waking up with a sense of dread, he felt a quiet excitement. He didn't know what each day would bring, but he knew he wanted to make a difference, no matter how small. His visits to the park, the coffee shop, and the community center became a regular part of his routine. And with each act of kindness, he felt the spark inside him grow a little brighter. One afternoon, as he was leaving the community center, he noticed a man sitting on the steps outside. The man looked tired, his clothes worn and his face lined with worry. The young man sat down beside him and asked, "You okay?" The man sighed. "Just trying to figure things out. Lost my job a while back, and it's been tough." The young man nodded. "I know how that feels. I've been there." They talked for a while, and the young man learned that the man's name was John. He had been struggling to find work and was feeling hopeless. The young man told him about the community center and how they offered job training programs and support for people in need. He even offered to walk John inside and introduce him to the staff. John hesitated at first, but the young man's kindness gave him the courage to take the first step. Together, they went inside, and the staff welcomed John with open arms. As the young man left, he felt a sense of pride. He hadn't solved John's problems, but he had given him a little bit of hope, and sometimes, that was enough. Later that week, the young man was back at the coffee shop when he saw the woman he had helped with her project. She waved him over, her face lighting up with a smile. "I just wanted to say thank you again," she said. "Because of you, I finished my project on time, and I got a great grade. I don't know how to repay you." He smiled. "You don't have to repay me. Just pass it on." She nodded, her eyes shining. "I will. I already started. I helped a classmate with their assignment yesterday. It felt good." The young man felt a warm glow in his chest. It was amazing to see how one small act of kindness could ripple out and touch so many lives. He realized that he wasn't just helping people, he was inspiring them to help others, too. As the days turned into weeks, the young man began to notice something else. People were starting to recognize him. Not in a big, dramatic way, but in small, meaningful ways. The barista at the coffee shop started giving him a discount on his coffee. The staff at the community center greeted him by name. Even strangers on the street would nod or smile at him, as if they could sense the kindness in his heart. One evening, as he was walking home, he saw a familiar figure sitting on the park bench. It was the old man who had started it all. The young man's heart leapt with joy, and he hurried over. "I've been hoping to see you again," he said, sitting down beside the old man. "I wanted to thank you. Your advice changed my life." The old man smiled, his eyes twinkling. "I'm glad to hear it. But it wasn't my advice that changed your life, it was your choice to act on it. You're the one who lit the spark." The young man thought about that for a moment. He realized that the old man was right. Kindness wasn't just about words, it was about action. It was about choosing to help, even when life was hard. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun set. Then the old man stood up and patted the young man on the shoulder. "Keep going," he said. "The world needs more people like you." As the old man walked away, the young man felt a deep sense of gratitude. He didn't know if he would ever see the old man again, but he knew that his words would stay with him forever. The next day, the young man decided to take things a step further. He started a small initiative at the community center, organizing a weekly event where people could come together to share their skills and help each other out. It started small, with just a few people, but word quickly spread. Soon, the event was packed with people teaching each other everything from cooking to carpentry to computer skills. One evening, as he was helping set up for the event, he saw John walk in. John looked different, more confident, more hopeful. He had found a part-time job through the community center's program and was eager to give back. He had started teaching a class on basic car maintenance, and it was a hit. "I just wanted to say thank you," John said, shaking the young man's hand. "You gave me a chance when I needed it most. I'll never forget that." The young man felt a lump in his throat. He hadn't expected any recognition or thanks, he had just wanted to help. But seeing the impact of his actions made him realize how powerful kindness could be. As the weeks went by, the young man's initiative grew. People from all walks of life came together, sharing their skills and their stories. The community center became a hub of connection and support, a place where people could find hope and friendship. And it all started with a simple act of kindness, a stranger on a park bench who offered an apple and a few words of wisdom. The spark had grown into a flame, and it was lighting up the lives of everyone it touched. The young man's weekly initiative at the community center had become something special. What started as a small gathering of people sharing skills had grown into a vibrant community event. Every week, more people showed up, some to learn, some to teach, and some just to be part of the positive energy. The young man was amazed at how something so simple could bring people together in such a meaningful way. One evening, as he was setting up for the event, a woman approached him. She looked to be in her 40s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. "I just wanted to introduce myself," she said. "I'm a teacher at the local school, and I heard about what you're doing here. I think it's wonderful." The young man smiled. "Thank you. It's been amazing to see how people come together to help each other." The woman nodded. "I'd love to get my students involved. Maybe they could come here and learn some practical skills, or even teach something they're good at. What do you think?" The young man's eyes lit up. "That's a great idea. Let's make it happen." The next week, a group of students from the local school joined the event. They were shy at first, but soon they were laughing and learning alongside everyone else. One student taught a class on drawing, while another showed people how to code a simple website. The young man watched with pride as the students blossomed, their confidence growing with each passing moment. One of the students, a quiet boy named Sam, approached him after the event. "Thank you for letting us be part of this," he said. "I've never felt like I had much to offer, but today I taught someone how to play chess. It felt really good." The young man smiled. "You have a lot to offer, Sam. Never forget that." As the weeks went by, the initiative continued to grow. People from all walks of life came together, sharing their skills and their stories. The community center became a place of connection and hope, a reminder that even in difficult times, people could come together and support each other. One day, the young man received a surprise visit from the woman he had helped at the coffee shop. She had brought her friends with her, and they were eager to get involved. "We want to help," she said. "However we can." The young man was touched. "That's amazing. We can always use more hands." Together, they brainstormed new ideas for the initiative. They started a mentorship program, pairing people who needed help with those who could offer it. They organized a community garden, where people could grow fresh produce and share it with those in need. They even started a small library, where people could borrow books and share their favorite stories. The ripple effect of kindness was spreading, touching more and more lives. The young man often thought about the old man in the park and how his simple act of kindness had started it all. He wondered if the old man knew how much of an impact he had made. One evening, as he was walking home from the community center, he saw a familiar figure sitting on the park bench. It was the old man. The young man's heart leapt with joy, and he hurried over. "I've been hoping to see you again," he said, sitting down beside the old man. "I wanted to tell you how much your kindness has meant to me, and to so many others." The old man smiled, his eyes twinkling. "I'm glad to hear it. But remember, it's not about me. It's about the choices you've made, the lives you've touched. You're the one who kept the spark alive." The young man thought about that for a moment. He realized that the old man was right. Kindness wasn't just about one person, it was about the choices we all made, every day. It was about choosing to help, to care, to connect. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun set. Then the old man stood up and patted the young man on the shoulder. "Keep going," he said. "The world needs more people like you." As the old man walked away, the young man felt a deep sense of gratitude. He didn't know if he would ever see the old man again, but he knew that his words would stay with him forever. The next day, the young man decided to take things a step further. He started a small fund to help people in need, using donations from the community to provide food, clothing, and other essentials. He also organized a monthly event where people could come together to share their stories and support each other. The fund started small, but it quickly grew. People were eager to help, donating whatever they could. The young man was amazed at the generosity of the community, and he made sure every donation was used to make a difference. One day, he received a letter from a woman who had been helped by the fund. She had been struggling to make ends meet, but the fund had provided her with groceries and clothing for her children. "Thank you for giving me hope," she wrote. "I don't know how I would have made it without your kindness." The young man felt a lump in his throat as he read the letter. He hadn't expected any recognition or thanks, he had just wanted to help. But seeing the impact of his actions made him realize how powerful kindness could be. As the weeks went by, the fund continued to grow, touching more and more lives. The young man often thought about the old man in the park and how his simple act of kindness had started it all. He realized that the spark of kindness was still growing, lighting up the lives of everyone it touched. The young man's fund had become a beacon of hope in the community. What started as a small initiative to help a few people had grown into something much larger. Donations poured in from all corners of the neighborhood, some gave money, others donated clothes, food, or their time. The young man was overwhelmed by the generosity of the people around him. It was as if the spark of kindness he had ignited had grown into a roaring fire, warming everyone it touched. One afternoon, as he was sorting through donations at the community center, a middle-aged man walked in. He looked hesitant, clutching a bag in his hands. The young man greeted him with a smile. "Hi there. How can I help you?" The man cleared his throat. I heard about what you're doing here. I don't have much, but I wanted to contribute." He opened the bag to reveal a stack of neatly folded blankets. "My wife used to knit these. She passed away last year, and I thought, maybe someone could use them. The young man felt a lump in his throat. These are beautiful. Thank you so much. They'll mean a lot to someone. The man nodded, his eyes glistening. I just wanted to do something good. It's what she would have wanted. The young man spent the rest of the day distributing the blankets to people in need. Each person who received one was touched by the gesture, and the young man made sure to tell them the story behind the blankets. It was a reminder that kindness wasn't just about giving, it was about connecting, about sharing stories and memories. As the fund continued to grow, the young man decided to expand its reach. He partnered with local businesses to provide job opportunities for people who were struggling to find work. He organized free workshops on financial literacy, resume building, and interview skills. He even started a small scholarship fund to help students pursue their dreams. One day, he received a letter from a young woman named Priya. She had been one of the first recipients of the scholarship fund. Because of your help, I was able to finish my degree, she wrote. I just got my first job as a teacher, and I can't thank you enough for giving me this opportunity. I promise to pay it forward. The young man felt a surge of pride as he read the letter. It was amazing to see how one small act of kindness could change someone's life. He realized that the ripple effect of kindness wasn't just about helping people in the moment, it was about empowering them to create a better future for themselves and others. The community center had become a hub of activity, buzzing with energy and hope. People came not just to receive help, but to give it. The young man often marveled at how far they had come. What had started with a simple act of kindness, a stranger offering an apple on a park bench, had grown into a movement that was touching countless lives. One evening, as he was locking up the community center, he saw a familiar figure standing outside. It was the old man from the park. The young man's heart leapt with joy, and he hurried over. I've been hoping to see you again, he said. I wanted to thank you. Your kindness changed everything. The old man smiled, his eyes twinkling. I'm glad to hear it. But remember, it wasn't me, it was you. You're the one who chose to act, to keep the spark alive. The young man thought about that for a moment. He realized that the old man was right. Kindness wasn't just about one person, it was about the choices we all made, every day. It was about choosing to help, to care, to connect. They sat on the park bench together, watching the sun set. The old man spoke softly, his voice filled with wisdom. You've done something incredible here. But the work isn't done. There will always be people who need help, who need hope. Keep going. Keep shining your light. The young man nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. I will. I promise. As the old man walked away, the young man felt a surge of determination. He knew that the journey wasn't over, there was still so much to do. But he also knew that he wasn't alone. The community had come together in ways he could never have imagined, and together, they were making a difference. The next day, he decided to take things a step further. He started a mentorship program, pairing people who needed guidance with those who could offer it. He organized a community cleanup day, where people came together to make their neighborhood a better place. He even started a small newsletter, sharing stories of kindness and hope to inspire others. The ripple effect of kindness continued to spread, touching more and more lives. The young man often thought about the old man in the park and how his simple act of kindness had started it all. He realized that the spark of kindness was still growing, lighting up the lives of everyone it touched. The mentorship program the young man started quickly became one of the most impactful initiatives at the community center. People from all walks of life signed up, some seeking guidance, others eager to share their knowledge and experience. The young man was amazed at how willing people were to help each other. It was as if the community had awakened to the power of connection and kindness. One of the first mentor-mentee pairs was a retired teacher named Mrs. Kapoor and a teenage girl named Anika. Anika had been struggling in school and felt like she had no one to turn to. Mrs. Kapoor, with her gentle demeanor and years of experience, quickly became a source of support and encouragement for her. They met every week at the community center, working on homework, discussing life, and building a bond that went beyond academics. One day, Anika came to the center with a big smile on her face. "I got an A on my math test," she exclaimed. "I couldn't have done it without Mrs. Kapoor." The young man felt a swell of pride. "That's amazing, Anika. You should be proud of yourself." Anika nodded. "I am. And I want to help others, too. Maybe I can tutor younger kids or something." The young man smiled. "That's a great idea. Let's make it happen." Soon, Anika started tutoring a group of younger students at the center. She was patient and kind, and the kids loved her. The young man watched with pride as Anika blossomed into a confident and caring young woman. It was a reminder that kindness wasn't just about helping people in the moment, it was about empowering them to grow and thrive. The mentorship program continued to grow, touching more and more lives. There was a retired carpenter who taught young people how to build furniture, a nurse who offered free health workshops, and even a local artist who started a painting class. The community center became a place of learning and connection, where people could come together to share their skills and their stories. One day, the young man received a visit from John, the man he had helped find a job through the community center's program. John looked different, more confident, more hopeful. He had been working steadily and was eager to give back. "I want to be a mentor," John said. "I know what it's like to feel lost and alone. If I can help someone else find their way, I'd be honored." The young man smiled. "That's amazing, John. I think you'd be a great mentor." John was paired with a young man named Ravi, who had recently lost his job and was struggling to find his footing. They met every week, talking about everything from job skills to life goals. Over time, Ravi's confidence grew, and he eventually found a new job. He was so grateful for John's support that he decided to become a mentor himself, helping others in need. The ripple effect of kindness continued to spread, touching more and more lives. The young man often thought about the old man in the park and how his simple act of kindness had started it all. He realized that the spark of kindness was still growing, lighting up the lives of everyone it touched. One evening, as he was locking up the community center, he saw a familiar figure standing outside. It was the old man from the park. The young man's heart leapt with joy, and he hurried over. "I've been hoping to see you again," he said. "I wanted to thank you. Your kindness changed everything." The old man smiled, his eyes twinkling. "I'm glad to hear it. But remember, it wasn't me, it was you. You're the one who chose to act, to keep the spark alive." The young man thought about that for a moment. He realized that the old man was right. Kindness wasn't just about one person, it was about the choices we all made, every day. It was about choosing to help, to care, to connect. They sat on the park bench together, watching the sun set. The old man spoke softly, his voice filled with wisdom. "You've done something incredible here. But the work isn't done. There will always be people who need help, who need hope. Keep going. Keep shining your light." The young man nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. "I will. I promise." As the old man walked away, the young man felt a surge of determination. He knew that the journey wasn't over, there was still so much to do. But he also knew that he wasn't alone. The community had come together in ways he could never have imagined, and together, they were making a difference. The next day, he decided to take things a step further. He started a community garden, where people could grow fresh produce and share it with those in need. He organized a monthly storytelling night, where people could come together to share their stories and support each other. He even started a small library, where people could borrow books and share their favorite stories. The ripple effect of kindness continued to spread, touching more and more lives. The young man often thought about the old man in the park and how his simple act of kindness had started it all. He realized that the spark of kindness was still growing, lighting up the lives of everyone it touched. The community garden was a sight to behold. What had once been an empty lot filled with weeds and debris was now a vibrant space bursting with life. Rows of vegetables, herbs, and flowers stretched across the plot, tended to by a diverse group of people, young and old, experienced gardeners and beginners. The young man stood at the edge of the garden, watching as people worked together, laughing and sharing stories. It was a beautiful reminder of what could happen when people came together with a common purpose. The idea for the garden had come to him one evening as he thought about how to bring the community even closer. He wanted a space where people could not only grow food but also grow connections. The response had been overwhelming. People donated seeds, tools, and their time. Local businesses pitched in with supplies, and even the city council offered support. The garden had become a symbol of hope and unity, a place where everyone was welcome. One of the most active members of the garden was a woman named Mina. She had recently moved to the neighborhood and was feeling lonely and disconnected. When she heard about the garden, she decided to give it a try. She quickly discovered a passion for gardening and became one of the most dedicated volunteers. She also found something she hadn't expected: friendship. The garden became a place where she felt like she belonged, and she often said it had changed her life. The young man loved hearing stories like Mina's. They reminded him why he had started all of this in the first place. It wasn't just about helping people, it was about creating a sense of community, a place where everyone felt valued and supported. The storytelling nights were another way he brought people together. Once a month, the community center would fill with people eager to share their stories and listen to others. The events were simple: just a microphone, a few chairs, and an open heart, but they had a profound impact. People shared stories of struggle and triumph, of loss and hope. Each story was a reminder of the strength and resilience of the human spirit. One evening, a man named Rajesh took the stage. He was shy at first, his voice trembling as he began to speak. But as he shared his story, his confidence grew. He talked about how he had lost his job and fallen into depression, but how the community center had given him a second chance. "I came here feeling like I had nothing to offer," he said. "But through the mentorship program, I found purpose. I found hope. And I found a family." The room erupted in applause, and the young man felt tears welling up in his eyes. It was moments like these that made all the hard work worth it. He realized that the ripple effect of kindness wasn't just about helping people, it was about giving them a platform to share their voices, to be seen and heard. As the months went by, the community continued to grow stronger. The garden flourished, providing fresh produce for those in need and a sense of pride for everyone involved. The storytelling nights became a beloved tradition, drawing larger crowds each time. The mentorship program expanded, touching more lives than the young man had ever imagined. One day, as he was walking through the garden, he saw a group of children planting seeds with Mina. They were laughing and chatting, their faces filled with joy. One of the kids looked up at him and said, "This is the best place ever. I love coming here." The young man smiled. "I'm glad you like it. What's your favorite part?" The kid thought for a moment. "I like that everyone helps each other. It feels like we're all family." The young man felt a lump in his throat. That was exactly what he had hoped to create, a place where people felt like they belonged, where they could come together and support each other. It was a reminder that kindness wasn't just about big gestures, it was about the small, everyday moments that made life meaningful. As the sun set that evening, the young man sat on the park bench where it had all begun. He thought about the old man who had offered him an apple and a few words of wisdom. He wondered if the old man knew how much of an impact he had made. He hoped so. Just then, he saw a familiar figure walking toward him. It was the old man. The young man's heart leapt with joy, and he stood up to greet him. "I've been hoping to see you again," he said. "I wanted to thank you. Your kindness changed everything." The old man smiled, his eyes twinkling. "I'm glad to hear it. But remember, it wasn't me, it was you. You're the one who chose to act, to keep the spark alive." The young man nodded. "I couldn't have done it without you. You showed me that even the smallest act of kindness can make a difference." The old man placed a hand on his shoulder. "And you've shown others the same thing. That's the power of kindness, it grows, it spreads, it changes lives." They sat together on the bench, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The young man felt a deep sense of peace. He knew that the journey wasn't over, there would always be more to do, more people to help. But he also knew that he wasn't alone. The community had come together in ways he could never have imagined, and together, they were making a difference. As the old man stood to leave, he turned to the young man and said, "Keep going. The world needs more people like you." The young man smiled. "I will. I promise." And as he watched the old man walk away, he felt a surge of determination. The spark of kindness had grown into a flame, and it was lighting up the lives of everyone it touched. He knew that as long as he kept that flame alive, the ripple effect of kindness would continue to spread, changing the world one small act at a time.